Hi, Charlotte.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. It's nice to meet you.
You too. Congratulations on the shortlist. That's really awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very exciting.
I have to admit, your movie broke my heart. Um, I've seen it a few times, and I thought to myself, I've seen it. I will be much better the second time that I watched it. And nope, still have the same, probably even worse reaction because I knew what was happening and it still hit me. So thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you for watching the film.
of
And
course.
I'm sorry it made you cry, but I'm also happy that it touched you
Yeah.
deeply.
I don't know. I think the older that I get, well, let me backtrack. I think something that I realized about myself as I get older is I think a, a fear that I have is what happens if I become homeless. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if it's like I'm always really affected when I see people that are, unhoused on the street. If I have a couple bucks in my pocket, I will give it to them. If I have food, I will give it to them. So maybe that's where the effects hit me a lot. I'm not sure where that fear comes from, but and I personally feel like we don't treat those who are older with the respect that they deserve in general. Um, so just rambling, but
Well, I think
something.
with your reaction, a lot of Americans are a lot closer to that precipice
Mm-hmm.
than they maybe think they are, or they would have been a few generations back. So
Yeah,
I'm sure you're not alone in having that fear. I don't know your situation, but for many people, it's a very real fear.
yeah. I guess I wanted to ask first about timing, just because. Well, actually, also I lived in Miami, Florida for 3 years. So I don't know these specific areas, but I was very, it's been a while since I thought of Hollywood, Florida, of Homestead, Florida. It was very close to where I lived. And since this is a film that is essentially about, time running out in terms of finding a new place for yourself, I guess I wanted to know for you, what was that like to go from meeting these people, especially these three women, and then sort of following them. I guess that sort of, I'm always curious about like how a director builds a relationship with somebody in order for the subject or person to kind of welcome them into their life. And I guess I wanted to know, because we're dealing with like a time crunch. I guess I
Yeah.
wanted to know what that was like for you.
Yeah. Well, the time crunch definitely added a layer of
Yeah.
stress. It also, so when I met these women at that time, the end of year deadline actually hadn't been set and
Mm,
had just a few months. So it was really, really urgent that we begin
wow.
filming. And the park was being destroyed like in real time. Things were being ripped down, possibly as a tactic to make people want to leave more
Mm,
rapidly. So we had to
wow.
start capturing it, which meant, no time to get people on board, no time to raise money. We just have to do this. And when I say we, it was me and the director of photography, Nick, kind of just jumping in. And I think that because this meant that it was just the two of us and a pretty
Mm,
bare bones setup, it allowed for intimacy
yeah.
with the participants. We also we this was our first time, my first time directing something, and for both me and Nick, a first kind of this level of creative responsibility in a
Mm,
film. And I think because we were kind of figuring it out as we went along and not coming in with sort of a intimidating level of like filmmaking confidence, I think that too kind of allowed for an atmosphere of kind of openness and casualness and like
mm,
wasn't intimidating. But the real way we built trust was by not filming every
mm,
day. Some days we filmed like one sunset shot and that was it. And I would say that
Okay.
was a good day. If we didn't lose trust, that was a good day. And we also, because of the sort of terrifying march towards the park closing, we were really afraid for the residents. It was
Yeah.
genuinely seemed like Nancy might be unhoused at the end of this
Yeah.
process. Up until like the very last minute, we didn't know what was going to happen with her. And something that we did not film is that behind the scenes, like going to social workers and visiting assisted living facilities in Florida and getting on like super
Oh,
long wait
wow.
lists for those and like just trying to figure out like what's going to happen. And that was just really terrifying. Like, of course, with a documentary, you never know how it's going to end,
Yeah.
but we didn't know how it was going to end. Um, and uh, we were kind of all in it together. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Wow. Yeah. I think the part that and I'm sure a lot of audiences are sharing this with you that as we are seeing Nancy talking to the camera, going month to month, and I do want to talk about structure in a second, but sort of hearing her say, "Oh, I'm going to live with my nephew. Oh, I'm going to go with Norma. I'm going to." I realized very quickly how because the first time that I heard it, I was like, okay, so there's a plan in place, and then as each plan sort of dissolved, I think that's when my like worry set in for her.
yeah,
And that was I think that's where a lot of my emotional reaction came from, especially because she seems like such a sweet. She has such a smiley. Her face, I can see her face. It's uh yeah.
yeah.
Um, Let me ask about structure. Just because, I'm sorry, just a weird moment there for a second. Just structure. I like how you go from month to month. I guess this kind of goes along with the first question of the time crunch, but I guess I wanted to know was that always in place when you decided to structure the film, or is that like maybe along the way you realized month to month was the best way to go to kind of see where all these women are because I like how we sort of we spend time with each of them in these little chunks and I guess I wanted to just see how structure was laid out.
Yeah. I do think it was a decision that was made really early on, like at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the edit or even before the edit, knowing at least that I wanted at the beginning of the film to have this deadline in place, this idea that like the park will close
Yeah.
and the deadline to find a home because it's the film is as much about the like cruel corporate maneuverings of the park's
Mm-hmm.
owner as it is about the fact that they can't find a place to go. And so I wanted that ticking clock to find a place to go, to be
Mm-hmm.
front and center and to create a sense of urgency. The cards that actually like let us know month to month, uh, I wasn't sure initially if we would give a card for every month.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it's a lot of cards.
Yeah.
But they really helped give the film structure because I think partially because it's Florida, right? So there's no like change in seasons. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
There weren't a lot of ways to show the passing of time without the months.
I would say as somebody who lived in Florida, one of the things that I personally did not like living in Florida. It was always way too hot. Everything. One of the things that I missed was leaves and snow, and it just felt like it was the same at all times. So, yeah, that's something that I appreciated very much. You keeping us very much in the loop of how much time we had, and also, I guess, just hearing you say that if you didn't let us know what the deadline was at the beginning, and then you suddenly are like, "Hey, by the way, y'all have to move," that would be a completely different movie. It would feel
Yeah.
totally different.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
maybe when we first started filming, I thought the suspense might be will they get kicked out of the park? Like
Mm,
there was some hope that they might actually be able to push off the
yeah.
deadline not indefinitely, but sort of save themselves in some way, get some significant compensation or help from TBN. But that did not happen. So
Yeah.
quickly, like not just for the film, but for the residents, the question became, where are we going to go?
Mm, okay. Since you brought up TBN, I did want to ask something that I especially responded to this when I rewatched it is Nancy Fleischman's faith is very present throughout her storyline, which I very much appreciated. Like even just in small moments when her and Nancy are leaving the apartment, and you just hear her muttering, she's like, "Dear Lord, help us."
Yeah.
Um, we see her in church, we see her going along with the prayer. I guess I kind of want to know what that was like for you, just because I think that is a very beautifully complicated thing to include in the film, and I guess I wanted to know how much you wanted to like lean on that or like stay back with it, because I that's something I really really appreciated.
Yeah. Um, it was it was sort of not an option. Like this is
Yeah.
like she is she's defined by her faith.
Mm,
And it defined her relationship with the park because she moved to the park to work for TBN
yeah.
and because she loved TBN and because she felt that TBN saved her soul.
Mm,
And when she found out the park was closing, she said, "Well, God will take care of us." And I'm sure TBN, they just don't know that they're harming us. I'm sure if I can reach them on the phone or, then get somebody to listen, they'll help us out.
yeah.
So, it was devastating to see that kind of unravel. And it went really deep because I think Nancy, in a way, had a hard time distinguishing between her faith in God and her faith in TBN.
Mm,
And so losing hope that TBN would save the park like went really deep and was a challenge to Nancy. It didn't shake her faith in God ultimately. She's still really defined by that, but
yeah.
was deeply disturbing and painful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I personally am not a religious person. So I don't know, I just felt like I never thought that her faith was like she never abandoned her faith. I never felt that.
Yeah.
I just felt like you capture something so beautiful in terms of a person, reaching out to God, maybe by herself personally, maybe she's thinking in. I don't know. I felt a lot of emotion from
Yeah.
her. And I think, the fact that TBN wasn't responding to her, and we see these, some images of a sermon happening. I just think that's a very fascinating thread to the whole film itself.
Totally. She's sort of like even though she worked for TBN,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a foil to TBN because
Mm,
here's this person who she's actually not cynical about God or faith, and she genuinely believes in like the saving power of Christian evangelical
yeah.
TV station. She worked for them, she gave money to them, and she believed they would do the right thing. And so it kind of allows us to shift the perspective, like the question from what does TBN as a landlord owe these people? What does it owe them legally under Florida law? And more like what Nancy was asking, which is, well, what's the right thing to do? And then I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
they'll do the right thing, which is a refreshing way to look at what is ultimately an economic issue of housing insecurity and an affordability crisis, not through like what do we owe people by
Yeah.
contract or under law, and more like, well, what's the right thing? And let's start there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's oh, wow. Yeah. That's I don't know. I just felt like we were witnessing so much of from her in terms of she's confronting something, and I kept wondering, is she confronting something like this for the first time in her life? How much is her faith there? for her to comfort her. I don't know. I was really drawn to that.
Yeah.
Um, I guess I wanted to know also what it was like to physically just be in that space of the park. I have the image in my head of Lainey, or I'm sorry, Lori. Um, that final image of her dancing as her home is she's behind it in the wake of her home moving away. She's
Yeah.
dancing. So I feel like you really end it. That image is just right here, and I mean, I guess I just wanted to know what it was like for you to physically be there, especially when it all started, and to kind of see it unfold.
Yeah. Um, Gosh, it was sad to see it disappear because it was
Yeah.
such a special place. And like we would maybe on one shoot, we'd say,
Hmm.
"Oh, we didn't get that shot of that statue, but it's okay. We'll get it next time." And of course, you come back and the next day it's gone.
Wow.
So it was, I think we sort of started to share a love for the place and a sadness as it like just changed in front of our eyes so rapidly.
Hmm.
Um, it was actually it's a pretty small piece of land
Hmm.
compared to some mobile home parks, which are just like really vast and sprawling.
Yeah.
So it was intimate, um, and we just knew everybody, and everybody knew us, and
Hmm.
like um, felt kind of rooted there, and um, a sense of homecoming every time we came back, which is really lovely. It was hot. It was really hot.
Yeah.
So it was and like those trailer homes weren't air conditioned. It's just like some of the interviews I think feel intimate, and part of
Yeah.
it's because like we were in a really small space
Yeah.
and like sitting like a few feet apart from each other, which is something that now on my next project, filming in a really big room, I always try to actually to still sit as close as I possibly can to the
Hmm.
to the interview subject, because I've realized that tightness actually is a really special thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you can feel when you're like physically close to someone, even if you're talking to them, you can feel sort of something latch on, and I don't know, maybe helps people ease up a little bit. I gotta say that heat, that was oppressive.
Yeah.
Just feel like it's pressing on you. I actually stopped wearing on my commute to work. I worked at a regional theater, and I stopped putting like hair product in my hair before I left because it would just melt before I got there. Don't miss that.
Yeah.
Um, I guess. Oh goodness. I first of all, I have to say the shot of Foxy, which I didn't catch the first time, the shot
Mhm.
of Foxy walking away um near the end before we see Nancy at the airport. I have a darker furred cat myself, so I feel like when I watched it again, I like reached over and picked him up and held him, and he didn't want anything to do with me. Um, that sort of I wanted to kind of ask about the idea of home. Lori talks about it while she's cleaning,
Yeah.
and I kept thinking of all these people who have had to leave, and even Foxy the cat goes on his way.
Yeah.
And I guess I wanted to know what the idea of home for you feels like now after you made this movie.
Yeah. It's community. It's
Mm,
absolutely community. I mean, it's what Lori said when I was kind of pushing back. Like, well, aren't you happy that you get to at least
yeah.
save the trailer? You can move most of the residents, they live in mobile homes, but they can't actually move the homes because they'll fall apart. It's too expensive.
Hmm.
But Lori was able to move her home. So, and she chose to move the home rather than like at great expense, rather than move on and find somewhere else to live.
Yeah.
So I was digging in and asking like, well, isn't that great? And she said, no, like my
Hmm.
home is here. It's this place. It's the people, and I really do think it's more than anything was the people and the community, especially for the women in the film were couldn't bring the people with them. Like you can move with your
Yeah.
family, but their neighbors were their family. None of them married. None of them had children. they had lived there for decades.
Yeah.
So I was just like, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It's not a happy ending to the film.
Yeah, I kept when I wrote down like between all three of the women that are featured, that's like 60 years collectively of living in one place.
Yeah.
Um and I kept thinking, especially on a rewatch, I kept wondering, I was like, that feeling when you get somewhere new and you're kind of like trying to find a new routine for yourself and you're trying to find even something as simple as like, I'm this far from the grocery store. I could, take a walk down this block or that block. I worried for all of the women in this, just wondering about that new beginning for them and what that looks like, or whether they'll stay in touch with one another.
Yeah. Yeah.
That broke. I think that's another reason it broke my heart. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Well, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations again on being shortlisted. I was so happy to see it pop up on the shortlist. It's just really affecting emotional, truthful work. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Joey.
Yeah. Have a good day. Thanks.
Bye.